Yeah,
Great.
and maybe yeah, just to kind of say to everyone, this is part of the Institute for Technoscience and Society's virtual seminar series this year. So we have a series of 5 talks by people who've recently published books, and we are onto our 4th talk so far. So we have one more talk in March. There are hopefully Dana's put a link in the chat if you're interested in any of the others. Unfortunately, we did not record the other talks. For different reasons, usually due to my incompetence at remembering to record. So they are not, unfortunately, we don't have them online, but some of them do have their slides. So we have put slides where we've got slides. The Institute for Technoscience and Society itself is a new research center at York University in Canada. We were set up in 2022. I'm the director of the institute currently, and the point of the institute was to become a research center that's a hub of kind of critical social research on the relationship between science, technology, and society. If you're interested in the work of people at the institute, I would suggest you go and have a look. There's people publish regularly and so on, and we hold different kinds of events and run different kinds of activities. We have visiting scholar opportunities as well if people are interested. And there is some resources as well available for people who are interested in collaborating and coming to visit us through something called the Connected Minds Initiative at York University, which is a big initiative centered on artificial intelligence and neuroscience and society. So that's our plug. And maybe we will start and I will introduce Fabian and then we will get going. So it's a pleasure to have Fabian here today with us, and very much looking forward to his talk about his new book, Paranoid Finance. So Fabian is a professor or research director at Means Paris, and a member of and I'm going to absolutely butcher the pronunciation, I apologize, the Centre de Sociologie de l'Innovation. So I apologize for that. He is the author of this book, Paranoid Finance, but as well as that, he's also the author of Capitalization, a cultural study. Sorry, Fabian, you might have to.
Cultural guide, I think.
Right, that's it. Yeah. Okay. And the Provoked Economy as well. He's also an editor of several other books, including one with myself called Assetization, and has been the chief editor of the journal, the open access journal Valuation Studies, and sits on the editorial board of the journal Cultural Economy and is chair of the advisory board there. And you were at some point one of the chief editors, was that correct? Or
I think I was the boss of the website or something like that. Have this kind of list of people, which this kind of a symbolic board.
Okay, yeah. So it's as I say, it's my pleasure to have Fabian here today to talk about his new book, and I will hand over to him. We'll have 45 minutes from him, and then plenty of time for questions and answers. So Fabian,
yes,
take it away.
Well, thanks a lot, Keen, and thanks, Dana. I think I want to start saying that I'm very, very happy to be here with you. And also, I think I'm very nervous because I have the impression that this is the first time I talk about the book after publication. I think I've done many presentations on Paranoid Finance as a project. But now that the thing is done, I feel a little bit, yes, impressed. So I'm a bit nervous. I won't summarize the book. The most important reason is that the book is very slim, so I don't want to do the spoiler. And perhaps in the room there is people that did already have the chance to go through it. And I want to concentrate perhaps rather on where the book comes from And also perhaps to discuss with you how does it link to technoscientific capitalism. I think that that's a nice conversation I'd like to suggest, especially because Keen is here, and to see if there are avenues to explore at the juncture between paranoid finance and assetization, which is an important thread that maybe we want to have discussed. So first, however, in a nutshell, what is the book about? It is about how some fringe conspiratorial interpretations of the financial order expand and radicalize standard financial imagination. So it's a critique of finance. It's not really about this kind of paranoid finance. It's about finance altogether. And the argument is to locate within the kernel of financial imagination the potentials for what I call paranoid finance, which would be a short for a radicalized extremist view of financial value. So the title is a bit misleading. It's not that there is something called paranoid finance and then there is another kind of thing called normal rational finance. It is that all finance is potentially paranoid. That's the main thread, and this is the this is what I wanted to develop in this book. Now, after the book is out, we are in a special situation now, because when I just said that the ideas that nurture one of the empirical parts of this book were kind of fringe conspiratorial interpretations of the financial order, well, they are not fringe anymore. There is a mainstreaming, in a sense, of the kind of ideologies that I explore in the book. When I talk about the fringe conspiratorial interpretations of the financial order, I talk basically about varieties of what we know as the QAnon syndrome. So that's basically the background. This kind of radical view of a secret war between a covert alliance that is fighting in order to liberate value from a cruel cabal of globalist bankers, Hollywood stars, and democratic politicians. That's what QAnon is basically about, although QAnon refers to a myriad things, and it's also connected to other strains. For example, what goes by the name of the Sovereign Citizen Movement, which is big in Canada. You have a queen there, Queen Romana Didulo. That's also part of the QAnon Queen of Canada. So that's part of the kind of syndromes that I was interested in. When I discovered all these, like 2-3 years ago, it was interesting because it exacerbated problems of financial valuation that I was interested in. But now we are witnessing the mainstreaming of this. And I think that the recent weeks and months demonstrate the extent to which the radical ideals of quote unquote draining the swamp govern basically the evolution of the current Trump administration in the United States of America, but also the activation of this very violent, commando-like intervention of the team put together by Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency in the US, which is about uncovering, draining the swamp, so to say, but also liberating value through a series of technologies. We are also in a moment in where the crypto dream, the release, the liberation of financial energies through the generalization of cryptocurrencies is also mainstreaming in a sense. So I wanted to also perhaps put this on the table today to see how this book. Well, I don't want to get paranoid, but I didn't want this to be a how-to guide. And now suddenly I realized that maybe Elon Musk read it and is doing things. I mean, I hope it's not an inspiring book in that sense, but who knows? The fact is that today, when you search for one of the remote, strange keywords that I was interested a few years ago, for example, the notion of a quantum financial system, you search that. And then you see how these kind of keywords are thriving. So quantum financial system, which is something that looks like a deep tech project for quantum computing in the financial sector, is actually the name of the secret, mysterious, magical system that the QAnon undercover reform was putting in place under the leadership of Donald Trump in order to drain the swamp. So this is part also of the keywords that have been brewed in the tradition of a conspiratorial QAnon-like thought, and now look like normal projects for a venture capitalist trying to fund the quantum computing in the financial system. So I wanted to have a look at that with you, and also to try to pull a few directions for discussion that will perhaps go in the direction of a mainstream finance, in a sense. The book, as I said, is a reflection. It's a critique of finance, but then we need perhaps to discuss what's the meaning of finance, right? And the finance is also very controversial term. I mean, it's ambiguous. There are many ways in where scholarship has been dealing with the problem of finance. One usual way to tackle this from a critical perspective is to consider finance as a problem of the distribution of money, right? So it's about the fairness and equity in the distribution of wealth, income, inequality, and so on. And that's a view that is current in critical political economy. There is another one, which is the one I think I am more comfortable contributing to, which is the idea of looking at finance as a problem of the distribution of words. A symbolic take, to consider finance as a semiotic engine, as a production of signification, as a worldview that creates meaning. And that's something I've been interested in previous work. And I think that when we started the conversation, like almost perhaps 10 years ago with Keen Birch about assetization, we were feeling that there were this galaxy of possibilities. So assetization was short for this multifarious process of turning things into capital or into assets. And the idea is that this could bring together research in critical political economy, so considering this as a problem of the distribution of resources and power and so on. But there was also the potential to develop a cultural angle, to say that assetization is also about turning things into assets from a cultural perspective, making sense of things in the terminology of assets. And that's what was a guiding principle in perhaps in the early discussions about assetization, in the sense that when we talk about the assetization of things that are supposed not to be meant to be prone to the languages of assets, assetization of knowledge, assetization of life, and so on. This was about ideological process or a semiotic process of constructing things. And to me, within this kind of semiotic traction of finance, the key is the notion of value. And that's also an important discussion. And that's also a discussion, a conversation, an old conversation with Keen here present, because one of my earlier contributions to this discussion was a paper titled On the Political Vernaculars of Value Creation, 2017. And that's out in a journal, in the Journal of Science in Context, Science as Culture, sorry. And that was a special issue edited by Keen on economic assumptions. So the idea was, if you look at finance from the perspective of the distribution of money, then value is an operational concept. If you look it from the perspective of the distribution of words, then value, quote unquote, is a word. It's something that is part of the distribution of meaning, a vernacular notion. And one of the things that I always been interested in is that in finance, there is a recurring tension between two forms of envisioning value, which is basically value as speculation and value as investment. This also leads back to the old discussion in the assetization literature, in where we were trying to force the tension between one form of considering things, which is commodification or marketization, which is about considering things in the terms of their price, and another one, which is assetization, which is considering things in their capacity to generate a future revenue or rent. So basically, the idea that when you have a financial way to look at things, you have this tension between fundamental value, which is the way in where you basically frame the idea of value deriving from the future. It's value that derives from the location in the future where you can collect a yield, and value as a speculation. And basically the entire paranoia, so to say, or cycling interpretation of value is about whether or not the value of an asset in the price today, considered from the perspective of market speculation, is going to meet the truth of fundamental value. And those are words that you can hear in a trading room. People will tell you about the truth of a price, the truth of value. This asset is overpriced, meaning it has two values: one which is the price, and one which is the real value. And the idea of making sense of this schizophrenic split between one value and another one, and to hope for the market efficiency where the fundamental value will be at last correctly represented by the market price, is part of the configuration of this financial cosmology considered as a semiotic engine. So one of the problems that me and other colleagues are excited about is the fact that when the critique of finance is focusing exclusively on financial speculation and using investment as a critical template in order to counter the excesses of finance, this critique is using a critical template which is financial, basically, which is basically inspired by the very way of presenting things within the financial repertoire. And that's something that it's part of the problem. So when I think about financial value in terms of cosmology, I just said the word, or worldview. Of course, we are very much looking at this from the perspective of some sort of a cultural anthropology, but also more and more from the perspective of a sociology of religion. And and this is also the thread that I've been interested in recently, is the fact that many critical scholarship, with which I associate, is considering the theological unconscious of this idea of value. I was talking about collecting value in the future, redeeming value in the future. These visions of the future as something that are that is translating the destiny of an entitlement to rent are entrenched in religious tropes and theological considerations. This is something that very much linked to a very exciting school of thought now, which was spearheaded by Giorgio Agamben, and that sometimes goes by the name of economic theology. The philosopher Eric Aliès, in his important book Capital Times, develops this kind of philosophical reading of time, the notion of time, not considered as the envelope in where finance evolves, but as the result of a financial logic, and that's very important. And I am also very much inspired by the work of medieval historian, medievist Giacomo Todeschini, who is very much interested in the metaphors that are at the origins of the categories of political economy, metaphors of value. So this is the kind of situation what this book comes from. So what's the problem? The problem is that these metaphors of value contain the kernel of delirium, in a sense. Most of the work I just referred to, Agamben, Aliès, and Todeschini, insist on the fact that the idea of value holds together because it requires an idea of non-value. So basically, the metaphors of value creation require, in order to make sense, the metaphors of value destruction. You need a menace of the enemies of value that are going to dilapidate, poison, and destroy the treasure. And this is something that has been pivotal in the construction of the financial order. So one of my claims in the book is that when you look at movements or creeds or discourse in where this view of value is radicalized, that you have a value which is a treasure and you need to collect it in the future, but there is a horde of enemies of value that are there in order to get that value from you. Then you end up in the kind of a dark, conspiratorial, pre-fascist radicalization of the financial imagination. That's the crux of the problem. We are in situations in where the theologies of value are getting, in a sense, out of control. In a sense, and this is something that we see in the QAnon syndrome, but also in other syndromes that are also of particular interest to us, especially if we look at technoscientific capitalism, which is the syndrome of transhumanism, accelerationism, this kind of Silicon Valley theologies that are also about the radicalization of value in a way, or about turning venture capitalism into a religion, in a sense, and a religion whose point is to release the asset that we all have in our soul. One of the cults I'm looking at in the book has developed this beautiful idea of every one of us being a CVAC, a Creators Value Asset Center, from which we can derive, if we acquire the skills in order to properly manage our inner vibration to create a eternal revenue. And this is the kind of things that I'm interested in. So in a sense, QAnon would be or the sovereign citizen movement would be the avant-garde of a radicalization of the financial ideas of value that will perhaps show us where the mainstreaming of this radicalization can lead us. And today, this is not something that I look at in the book, but today we witness more and more how mainstream ideologues or mainstream gurus go in that direction. I mean, it's kind of surprising that the conversation today, I mean, 2 weeks ago, there was this kind of a interesting conversation about the fact that the Financial Times published this very bizarre opinion piece by Peter Thiel, in which he was talking about truth and reconciliation in a very kind of interesting manner. And when I say interesting, I would like to say paranoid in a sense. So the mainstreaming of this is important to me. So this is one of the threads that I think that this book inadvertently would like to contribute to. What happens when the dark paranoid potentials of financial imagination goes mainstream. There are other ways in which these kind of discussions can perhaps connect with technoscientific capitalism, and this is something I didn't explore in the book in detail, but I would like to attend to that in the future. Is the connection with the law? As people in this room very well know, especially Keen, financial imagination is about contracts. Well, neoliberal capitalism, innovation, technoscientific capitalism is a way of thinking, in part, that is dominated by private law, and within private law, by a theory of contract. So everybody is a contract. Everything is a contract. And contract law will be the way you navigate this value landscape, basically. And this has some interesting correlates. For example, the fact that you will consider sovereign power as a contractual party to a private contract, basically, or you can optimize your strategy by relocating into a favorable, hospitable jurisdiction, for example. So the idea that a corporation is an excess of contract, a market is an excess of contract, a state is an excess of contract, all these propels this liberatory idea in where basically justice, because the law is about justice, is about the protection of contracts. And when we look at that today in mainstream finance, the protection of contracts means the protection of investors. So considering finance as investors writing contracts. And that's the way it is. I mean, that's the way we configure the way today. And then, for example, one of the bodies of knowledge that has the most potent performative impact would be, to me, the tradition of law and finance. Those scholars that analyze the configuration of legal jurisdictions, looking at them from the perspective of how well do they protect investors. The doctrine of investor protection has become the de facto doctrine for the critique of states, governments, and so on. And this also goes hand in hand with a kind of a secessionist unconscious. I mean, this is also about creating this kind of remote havens in where, or free zones in where the jurisdiction is entirely controlled by the capacity to protect investor interest, or protect this kind of paradigm. So tech havens, remote islands, and where everything is put together in order to prevent nasty sovereign powers from hampering value production or value creation. And this secessionist unconscious, or not really unconscious, this secessionist doctrine is there. It is the doctrine of the Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and so on. So there is a dream of a secessionist jurisdiction, of an exceptional jurisdiction, to use perhaps Schmittian wording, that accompanies this orientation towards juristic exception and the generalization of contract law. The investor as a sovereign, basically. And so this is exactly what the sovereign citizen movement does. It's the sovereign citizen movement that you see thriving everywhere in the world, in the US, of course, and in Canada, but also in Australia, in Italy, in Germany, with the Reichsbürger movement, in the UK, in Spain, in France, is about considering every one of us as a free investor that becomes a sovereign. So there is no law other than my ability to write and sign contracts, with voluntary contracts, with whoever I want. And that's the typical situation with the sovereign citizen contracts, where they will claim they don't abide by the law of the state because they didn't write a contract in where they will recognize the authority of a police agent or a fiscal service agent or something like that. So this is the main claim is to see how this kind of radicalization of contract law that goes by the name of pseudo law. I mean, legal scholars that have been studying the sovereign citizen movement have developed this very interesting idea of pseudo law, which is basically this generalization of contract law that is dismantling, in a way, in a kind of cumbersome way, the capacity of a legal jurisdiction to function swiftly. So that's also an element that, to me, bridge together the fringe delirious part of the sovereign citizen movement, or the QAnon syndrome, and the mainstream. The idea that we see more and more how the financial services industry goes into the direction of this generalization of contract law. And the last bit that I wanted to discuss with you, because it's also very powerfully connected to the present moment, is technology, is tech. And that's an angle that I didn't explore sufficiently in that book. But as I mentioned, there is a whole dream of a technological infrastructure that is going to help achieve the liberation of value in these movements. I just refer to this strange keyword, QFS, the quantum financial system. Again, it's something that looks perfectly safe, like a quantum financial system. Maybe it's about some deep tech innovation in quantum computing in order to develop an infrastructure or something. Well, most of the historians of conspiratorial thinking in the US refer to a precedent to the QAnon imagination, which was located in another keyword. It's a reform, well, a purported secret reform that goes by the name of Nezara, which was basically a reform, a plan to restore the true value of things and persons through the implementation of the reintroduction of the gold standard. Why gold? Because gold contains some telluric cosmic properties that reflect better the true value of things. The destruction of the federal system, the Federal Reserve System, and the canceling of all debts, and that's the reform. It was called Nezara, and this Nezara reform was supposed to be implemented through a new currency that would be a new magical currency. Very difficult to grasp because it was a secret project, right? It's all delusional, of course, but this went by the name of the quantum financial system. And so the hope was that within the alliance that was fighting the cabal, there were some tech guys that were developing secretly this kind of infrastructure that sometimes looked like a network of computers. Some other times it was more a crypto thing, and that will release the energy and liberate the economy from the cabal. The cabal represented by these potently anti-Semitic tropes of a central power that is intoxicating our bodily fluids and our sacred value. So again, today, when you look at the tech environment, and when you look at deep tech and also at quantum computing innovation, artificial intelligence applied to finance and so on, you can find some kind of a crazy thing, crazy sometimes in a funny kind of way. I mean, fantasies of liberation of value that you can see in the VC venue of Silicon Valley investment festivals, but that can also turn kind of dramatic at some point. And the idea that today that a social network such as, say, X, formerly known as Twitter, can become a bank, and at the same time a point of contact with a department of government in where you basically pay your taxes, for example, and that this project is a form of, quote unquote, draining the swamp and getting everything cleaned up, especially from within, to prevent the deep state from hampering this project, is exactly what the QAnon fantasy was about. So, and I think that all the tech dreams of we need more bandwidth, we need more computer power, and this is going to liberate society, which is also, it's, to put it again into the vocabulary of assetization, is the data enclave kind of episode of assetization. Is assetization as a matter of informatic infrastructure is also something that that goes into the direction of a paranoid destiny of financial technology. So those are the few ideas that I wanted to share with you. Again, the book is kind of slim, and I didn't disclose the meaty parts or the more scary ones. So you can have a look. The book is really something that can be read in an afternoon. But the reason why I was nervous today is because I read it again yesterday, and I kind of I kind of thought I was getting paranoid again, as I said, looking at this book and saying, well, I didn't want it to be a how-to guide, but it looks to me that most of the things that we're watching in the news this week, the day before last week, the tech teams put together by Elon Musk in order to drain the swamp and to lock themselves into a State Department in order to drain the swamp, looks exactly as a sort of a further radicalization of the spirit of paranoid finance. So maybe we can leave it here and open the floor for questions, remarks, objections.